We want to look at what is anxiety and how it affects us. So whenever it comes to anxiety, a lot of people just have anxiety, and my experience of working with it, I will ask people, what is anxiety? What does it mean? How does it affect you? And they'll say things like, oh, fuck, I don't know, just be stressed all the time, or um I just and that's normally the answer I get. There's never a coherent answer. It's usually mumbling and just throwing words at me. Most people who have anxiety don't want to talk about having anxiety. I know from personal experience that when you have anxiety, you just want to run away and hide from it. So we're going to look at it, what it is and how it affects us. And then we're going to use the amazing magical RD trick, which I wrote about in my book, and then how to live free of anxiety. This was something that took a while for me to work out, but I would help people to overcome their anxiety. So it could be a food anxiety, it could be flying, it could be enclosed spaces, it could be just general anxiety where you're just generally anxious in day-to-day life. So meeting people or going for job interviews or whatever it was, joining the gym, whatever, caused you anxiety and fear. And I would clear them of that anxiety and then just send them off into the world. And what I realized is people who are used to living with anxiety don't know how to live without it. So that's what we're going to look at here as well. So first thing we want to do is suck some lemons. That's going to be step one. So we're just going to go through a little imagination drill with you, a little imagination technique. Everybody has an imagination. You can tell me in the chat if you feel like you don't have an imagination, but most people have an imagination, just we're very good at directing it in the wrong way. We're very good at imagining the outcome being terrible, imagining how bad life's going to be. So here we're just going to test your imagination. So as long as it's safe for you to do so, I know there's a lot of cameras off, so I don't know if you're listening as you do things, but if you're not and it's safe for you to do so, just allow your eyes to close for me. And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine a lemon tree. So I have a wee lemon tree on the screen if you have difficulty imagining one, but there's one right there. And I want you to imagine actually physically reaching out and picking a lemon. And if you want to engage your imagination a bit more, you can physically move your hand and imagine you're picking the lemon and feel how does it feel? Is it tough? What does the skin feel like? Is it cold? Is it warm? Start to engage as much with it as you can. And I want you to bring it up and smell the lemon. I want you to notice what it smells like what a real fresh, straight off the tree lemon would smell like. And as you do that, I want you to take a deep breath in, take in that aroma of the lemon as best you can. And then I want you to pick the lemon between your finger and your thumb, and I want you to reach in and take a bite out of that lemon. And notice as soon as you bite into that, that sour juice from the lemon just sprays out into your mouth and probably sprays all over the place. And just notice what it feels like and the taste of it whenever it hits your tongue, and you're probably reacting like sucking lemons, you're reacting back, you're puckering your lips. Imagine all of that happening within your mouth as you chew on that lemon, and then just take another bite out of it and notice that it's even stronger than the first one. You'll notice the saliva in your mouth starting to engage a bit more. Notice the flavor, the smell that's been released from that fresh lemon. And just notice all of that happening. And then you can just throw your lemon away because I'm sure you don't want to eat a full lemon. So now just allow your eyes to open again, and I want you to, in the comments, let me know how that went, or if your camera's on, you can just give me a thumbs up. Did your mouth salivate whenever you thought about it? Did you, like, it's very hard for even me to explain it without salivating as I'm doing that. Did you smell it? Did you engage with it? Did you pucker up? Did your body react as if you were actually eating a lemon? So feel free to let me know in the chat, because remember, this is an interactive, not just me talking at you. So why did we just imagine sucking lemons? That's probably the question most people are asking that are still here. The reason is for trying to get you to understand the stimulus. So real or imagined stimulus will cause a physical reaction. So you imagine eating a lemon, physically your body reacts to that. You get the taste in your mouth, you get the more saliva building up. Some people would have reacted facially to it. Mouth did water, feel the whole face screw up. Yeah, so just depending on how it is. Fully engaged felt like it tasted the lemon, mouth salivating. We have a hand up. Sarah, have you a question or did you just put your hand up? You just put a hand up to say, yes, it was awesome. I'm going to guess. um, so the reason that I wanted to point that out straight away, and it's a fun way of doing it, it's a bit more relaxed than just going straight into like talking about anxiety and how it can be created. Whenever you are imagining something, your body will act as if it's real. So just because it's imagined doesn't mean your body and your mind don't believe it to be real. So for that, we're going to think about the feelings. We're going to play around with them and just change them up a little bit. So we're trying to give you a bit of control over how your body reacts and how you feel. So how you feel can change in an instant, like without even trying. So that was an exercise where we tried, where we actually visualized and engaged with eating a lemon and how it would feel and the movement within the body of doing that. But if someone says something to you, or if someone you've seen someone that you dislike or that you do like think of your best celebrity, the person that you love the most in the world, that like if they walked into your room now, no matter how you feel now, you would probably fucking overreact and like get really excited. I'm trying to think who my favorite celebrity, who would I like to come into my room, that would get me. Eric Thomas. So if Eric Thomas came in and got me like psychs, that's who I listen to before I go on calls. So if he walked into the room, I would automatically react to it. So without even thinking, right, I'm going to be excited and I'm going to react like this, and my body's going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take all these steps to get to excited. He walks into the room, that's just going to happen. So that's what can happen in general with this. So if it can happen to us, then surely we can create the change that we want. So if we are, as long as you know that, like, does everyone believe and agree that you can create change of mood yourself? Again, just let me know in the comments so that I'm going to put that there so I can see it. So once you understand that you can do this, and if you're not having anxiety at the minute, it's easy for you to go, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I can change how I feel, my mood. That's easy. But we seem to forget that whenever we're going through anxiety, especially if your anxiety has went straight to the level of a panic attack, then we kind of forget everything except our impending doom and how we're probably going to die. Well, that was me personally, maybe not everyone, but that's usually the way it goes. So if you understand that you have control and you can change it, change your mood, change your feeling, then whenever you start to feel anxiety rising or you start to feel panic rising, you can remind yourself, I know what to do here. I have control. I can change my mood. I can change the way I feel. So to do that, you have to have awareness. So the first thing I want you to do, if you have a pen and paper, this will be a good time to use it. What does happy feel like to you? If you want to let me know in the comment as well, then if you want to know, let me know in the chat. I was reading the chat as I was thinking, and I was thinking, what the fuck is that called? Chat. Yeah, it's difficult to remember in the middle of an anxiety attack. Yeah, that's why you want to get it before you get to the middle, or have a solid plan for when you're there that you know this definitely works. This is what I'm going to do. So what does happy feel like? Write it down, write it in the comments if you want. Hopefully just thinking about what happy feels like will engage a happy feeling. It'll make you feel more relaxed, like you're on top of things. Might bring a smile to your face. So again, just thinking about happy and what it feels like is a good thing to have, but it's also useful to have for if you are feeling down, anxious, stressed. Having the happy, understanding what happy is to you gives you a direction to aim for. Some people just, I don't want to be anxious. I'm like, well, what do you want to be? And like, I don't fucking know. I just don't want to be anxious. Like, it's like saying, I don't want to be overweight. You're like, well, what do you want to be? I want to be underweight? No, you want to be healthy. Yeah, what does healthy be? And then you start to break it down more. So what does happy feel like? What does sad feel like? And yes, I know I explained that thinking about happy can make you happy, so thinking about sad can also make you sad. That is true, but again, we don't want to have any fear when it comes to our emotions and how we feel. We want to have control over them. So if I know what happy feels like, I know when I'm happy. If I know what sad feels like, I know when I'm sad. So let me know in the comments what that is for you as well. And then what does anxiety feel like? So what is the physical feeling of anxiety? Is it sweaty? Is it breathing different? Is it not feeling like you have control? Is it like your palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy? Total relaxation, no worries and control, smiles, laughter, which spreads to others that must be happy, not sad. Sad for me feels like nothing will get better. Yeah. So sad, feeling like nothing gets better. So you're almost turning sad into hopelessness, which is slightly beyond sad. But it's still useful to know, because if it feels like nothing will get better, then you could think of things that you know make yourself feel better. A warm cup of tea, listening to a song that you like, doing a bit of exercise. So then you can battle the feeling with actual knowledge. Weighs in your chest like the world is getting colder. Yep. So again, one of the things that's really important when it comes to anxiety, and that's why I'm asking people to write in the comments. If you're aware of your language, you can change it. So say sad feels like weighs on my chest and feel like the world is getting colder, then I would be like, right, well, I need to do the opposite of that. I need to relieve the pressure of my chest, and I need to make things warmer. So you're able to deal with, instead of running away and hiding and thinking, fuck, I don't want to be there. You're thinking, right, I feel cold. Like I feel like the world's cold. Let's start to heat some things up. Again, I'm just going back to a cup of tea because it's such a handy thing to do. The thing I like about the cup of tea is it makes you get up and change your position. So changing your position will shift your mood as well. And then we're just going back just because it's nice to, what does happy feel like? So now when you think about happiness, after we've just thought about sad and anxiety, thinking about happy will be better, because now you're like, you can't see the light without the darkness, and the same with the sad and anxiety. Whenever you're in a mood and you just stick yourself in there, it's really difficult to see any way out and any other version of feeling, any other mood that you could have. Whereas if you, so the first time we just went from 0 to happy, so you're like, yeah, it feels quite good. And then you're like, sad, fuck, this is shit. Anxiety, really don't like this. What is happy? Oh, fuck, happy's really good. Like, I really like this one. So it starts to mean more to you because you've had it connected to other things. Anxiety feels like I've lost control, sheer panic. So you would want to be aware of the anxiety before the sheer panic, because panic and anxiety are different. The example I'll use is whenever I was solely working with panic and depression and suicide and anxiety and all of that. If someone came to me, for example, and said that they have panic attacks when it comes to spiders, as they were talking to me, I would pick out my phone and I would Google a spider, and as soon as they finished telling me what happens, I would show them the picture of the spider. And if they didn't freak out and run out of the room, then I'd be saying, well, that's not a panic reaction, that's an anxious reaction. You're anxious, you don't like it, you're afraid of it, you're reacting anxiously. So even in that moment, just being able to teach them the difference between panic and anxiety, you could just sort of see them relax into themselves, because they didn't have that stress of being like, if you have panic, it's all doom and gloom and it's fear and there's nothing you can do about it at the time in your head. So just understand there's a difference between panic. So panic feels like anxiety feels like lost control and sheer panic. If you're really able to pull back and break that down, you'd probably notice that panic leads to loss of control, or anxiety leads to loss of control and then panic, rather than both being the same thing. So we want to change up our posture now. So this is something, as long as you are safe to do so. If you can't, then just do it seated, but ideally we're going to shift and stand. So I want you to stand or sit in what you consider a happy posture. So what is a happy posture? So one of the things I would do a lot with clients when they came into me is they would sit like and have their head down, and I would ask them questions about things that were high first. Like in my bookshelf, for example, like it's a big dragon on the top of it. You can't see it, it's out of shot. And I would ask them like, is the dragon's eyes opened or closed? And they have to look up. So just that look up, that change of posture changes the position, changes the mood. Then I would eventually get them to stand to do certain things, or I would say to them, I need you to move chair. Sorry, I'm not like I can't see you properly because of the light coming in the window, or whatever excuse that I would make up at the time. And the idea is to change the posture. If you change the posture, you can change your mood. So you see it when someone's excited. They're not sitting, God, I'm really excited, and this is the best day ever. It's fun class. They're normally up and like buzzing. So let me know what happy posture feels like in the chat. If you've done that, what does it feel like just to stand happy posture? Hopefully, you're standing like chest high, hips straight, legs up. You're feeling strong. Like what does it feel like? Like physically feel like what my legs feel strong, my chest feels high, my chin's up, but also internally there'll be some sort of feeling as well. Next, stand in a sad posture. What does a sad posture feel like? Stand tall, head up, hands and hips, power pose. Power pose, awesome. Like you can get the Wonder Woman one or the full hands one, but either or, strong and proud, good. What does a sad posture feel like? We're going to do this one just shorter because it's not the greatest posture to be in. But if you can stand and stand, get in a sad posture, work it out for yourself. If you're seated, like maybe a sad posture is head and hands. Maybe it's forward holding. Maybe it's just sunk. Like what is a sad posture? What does the sad posture feel like? And then that's enough of sad posture. Let me know in the chat how it is. Everything was sad posture, sitting down, heads, hands, watching. Yeah, so we love watching the clock when we're sad and anxious. It's such a weird thing, but we all do it whenever we have anxiety. Fucking hell, this is happening. Like you just like time goes forever. So it's a useful thing to remember that clock watching isn't good for me when I do this. Maybe I should do something else. Maybe I should do postural shifts. Maybe I should move. Even if you did an internal clock and counted, the counting would change your mood as well. Remember, teachers used to try to get me to do it all the time when I was younger. Count before you say anything, Liam, and I would be like, fucking say whatever I want. When I should have took time out to count and relax. So what does an anxious posture feel like? So again, seated or standing, go for an anxious one. Probably a bit of anxious movement, shaky legs, rubbing, moving. Most of the things that we're doing you'll notice are actually pacifier moves. You're like rub your hands together, rub your face, rub your head, play with your hair, rub your neck, like rub your arms. Basically, can't stay still yet, can't focus, fidgeting. All of this stuff is like one of the things that's really useful if you can see the chat. Most people's responses are the same. We'll get out of the anxious one again now as we can, and then I want you to do an excited posture. What does it feel like? Excited probably feels like same sort of idea. You're buzzing a wee bit, you're a wee bit like on edge, but edgy, but sweaty, but excitable, and you're just like, this is fucking awesome. Same sort of feeling, but a different mental approach to the feeling. I should have had a relaxed one straight after the excited one, but I do not have that, so I'm just going to relax myself. The idea of understanding what all these postures, it's giving you more self-awareness. Again, smiling, buzzing, awesome. Can't keep still, smiling like an idiot. Yes. Remember, if you know these things, you can change up. The anxious one's pretty much the same, but I'm just not smiling. Like I'm not smiling like an idiot. I'm not smiling. So maybe if I'm feeling anxious, but I just smile. Like if we all smiled now, do I look mental? I probably look mental because I just went straight in it. Smiling makes you laugh eventually. It makes other people laugh whenever you get them to do it. It's releases the happy endorphins. It's just really good for the body and mind. But if we don't understand our posture, if we know our posture, we can catch on when we're sad or anxious before we get too deep into it. Fuck, I'm standing slouched. Normally this is my sad position. This is my happy one. This is my excited one. Let's move into it. So you can shift and move into them instead of staying in the position that you were in. So, any questions on the feelings and the posture before we move on? I'm going to kind of move on anyway because I know there'll be a delay in questions. No questions. Good. If you have any, just throw them in and I will come back to them. So, recognize and describe. So, when we take the time to think about what is happening and to actually focus on the reasons, we're better placed to turn it around. So, before we went into the recognize, describe, I wanted to give you an idea of what your moods feel like and what your posture does in those moods. So, now you can recognize and describe what's going on to yourself. So, say, for example, I used to have food anxiety. So I would go into a restaurant and then it would just be like a smell. The smell of chili food would hit the back of my throat, and that would remind me of something. So before I knew what was happening, what would actually happen was that smell would hit the back of my throat. I would feel like my throat's going to close over, and I'd be like, right, this is me dying now. This is when I die in this fucking shitty restaurant. And then I never died, but I usually got out of the restaurant and escaped, and then like came around probably because of the fresh air, whatever nonsense I told myself. The more I looked into it, the more I realized that something was happening. There was a reaction happening. There was a cause and effect. So it took me to Wagamama's in Belfast before I realized it was chili that was doing it. Chili was um, the main thing that was hitting me that was making me react. And when I chatted to my mum on a random conversation about how I don't like eating out because I feel like I'm going to die, and I described the whole thing, she just was like, "Oh, like when you were getting your tonsils out, do you remember?" Like, I fucking remember that. I was like 5. But when I was about 5, my tonsils played up, so I had to get them removed. But before I got them removed, I used to always complain about my throat being scratchy. Everything feels scratchy and feels like I'm being attacked by my food. So when I was going through a really stressful time in my life, the I was trying to deal with the stress and I was overworking and everything that went with it. Whenever that chili hit my throat for the first time, my brain went, "Fuck, that feels weird." And then it looked for a memory or looked for a connection and went, "Oh, that's like that time we didn't like eating because like it hurt your throat, and then you ended up in the hospital for a couple of days." And you ran away from the hospital, and then your mum had to drag you back, and there was a whole scene, and then they had to buy you a jumper to make you stay in the hospital and a comic, and then they stole your tonsils. All that happens without me thinking it, and then boom, it's like, right, freak out, get out of here, like escape, like avoidance, move away, run, fight, flight, whatever way you want to word it. So when I realized that, I was able to recognize it the second time it happened. And I'm able to say, right, I know. So this is basically how the recognize and describe works. And it sounds very simple, but it does work. And you can try it the next time that you feel you need to try it. You recognize what's happening. So for me, it would be, right, that sensation's happening. The knot in my solar plexus is spinning. So mine would have been a spinning solar plexus. It would have come out. So that's spinning. That normally happens to me whenever I'm anxious. And I'm anxious because I've just walked into a restaurant that has an open kitchen. The open kitchen has hit my throat. Not the full kitchen. The smells from the kitchen have hit my throat. And that has reminded me of the time my throat used to be fucked whenever I was getting my tonsils out. And I was a 5-year-old kid and I used to freak out. I'm not a 5-year-old kid anymore. It's just chili hitting the throat. Everybody in the restaurant's the same. If you ask anyone, they're getting the same thing. You're just going to clear your throat and you will be fine. Just being that logical and not letting the chattering monkeys fire off and take over. Just being that logical, describing what's happening, describing why it's happening, and that it's normal, then I can override it. So something that happens to everyone whenever they have a bout of anxiety or a bout of panic is they'll take a big sharp breath of air in. The reason that you're doing that is because your body is deciding whether it wants to fight or flight. There's 3 other steps, but we'll just work on these 2 for today. So it's either going to fight or flight. Well, we're going to have to name one. Freeze. Before it fights or flight, it freezes to make the decision. So in that freeze, it's preparing for fight or flight. So the freeze involves taking a deep breath in, the blood going to the extremities to get you ready to either fight or flight. You're taking that breath in to oxygenate the blood so that there's more oxygen to make you more powerful, I suppose, so you can escape or fight. And then you make the decision whether to fight or flight. We've probably all heard of fight or flight or freeze. There's 2 others, but we don't need to worry about them for now. The breath is normal. It happens to everyone, and it's the first time people are aware of their breath and they freak out a little bit. Fuck, my breathing's off. And one of the first questions I'll ask you is, how do you normally breathe? And they'll go, fuck, I don't know. But I know it's off now. And I go, how do you know where you're trying to get to if you don't know where your baseline is? That's why we did the first few exercises first, and before we even got into this exercise here. So understanding that it's normal, then if that happens and I can do that, my breathing's off. Well, it's off probably because that thing startled me. That's the thing that normally frightens me. And then I am taking a deep breath in to prepare myself for reacting to it. So this is normal and it will pass if I just go back to my regular breathing, whatever that may be. So it seems like such a simple little technique and tool, but it works amazingly for anyone that has anxiety, and it's just an easy way of combating it. Let me know if you have any questions based on that one as well. As a wee bonus, we'll do the finger switch game for fun. So this is just this. There's so much behind doing this, but the very quick briefing is that when you're anxious, super excited, in a heightened emotional state, your left and right side of the brain are not working in unison. One's fucking working overdrive and the other's fucked off to the shop. So you're just like in pure panic mode or stress that's developing into it. So what you want to do is reconnect them and get them working together. So we want to fire up the motor cortex and we want to use the nerve endings to do that. So it just makes it easier. So this is what I've come up with for this one from years of doing stuff and working with specialists in different areas. I met the guy that came up with this through kinesiology randomly at a gig I was at, and we spent about an hour just talking about this. So all you have to do is put one thumb up and one finger up, and then just switch them over. So try this now. Let me know how you get on with it, if you're managing it, if you're struggling with it. So you go back and forward like this. A lot of time you'll end up here or here or here, completely lost. Because most people here are in Ireland, they'll do this. Wee sneaky tongue out to help thinking. So try that. Let me know in the comments if you can get it. Bonus points if you turn your camera on and actually show me you doing it. This is in my book as well, and there's a video on YouTube of me really breaking this down and explaining it. But the idea behind it is you're bringing your attention back to yourself. You are actually got it for the first time. Well done, Vicky. It's only been what, like 10 years since we've been doing it. Yeah, so it just Sinead's saying that it's funny. Again, just shifts your mood. You mess it up and you're like, how the fuck can I not just switch? What is happening here? And it just makes you laugh. Like whenever I've done this in groups of people, it always ends up in laughter. this this is a nightmare for me. I'm good at it because I've been doing it for a long time. It's just something that you practice. You can break it down however you want. It's something that works really well for what it does. What it's doing in the background, even if you don't worry about that and you just worry about the fingers, and it does everything else for you. It's also really useful to have a technique that you know will work when you're panicked. So you have to practice it. It's like anything, you practice it, half get it, but start laughing. Laughing is a good thing anyway, so we're not going to complain about that. Once you get it though, then it means you can use it. The worst thing in the world would be to know this, know it works, and not try it. And then when you're anxious, try to learn it and do it at the same time whilst you're like freaking out and panicking, and then everything's shite. And then like you'll come back to me and say, that doesn't even fucking work. I tried it and I was freaking out and it didn't work. So like I've been doing martial arts a long time, and I've met many people that have watched UFC and read books and studied like text, and then they come in and then they tell you the moves doesn't even fucking work, couldn't do it in anybody, and you're like, well, you've never done it for real in your life. You've read a book and went, oh, if I put my leg there and do that, then you go to do it. And I don't know if anyone's ever grappled. I know a few people here have, and some have taught me well, Tom. When you grapple, Sometimes you don't even know where the fuck your leg is. Never mind what you're doing with it. You're like, it's very disorientating. So if I've just read a book and went in, so the same thing here. If all you've done is watch me do it a couple of times, and oh fuck, I don't know. When you're stressed, you'll think about it and you'll think, fuck, I wish I knew how to do that, and you'll not be able to do it. So if you practice it when you don't need it, whenever you do need it, it's easy to do, and it actually works in doing the job that it's supposed to do. So the last section here is how to live free of anxiety. So I've already said this at the start. It's often overlooked that if you've been living with anxiety, that's what you know. Like one of the questions I'll ask, and you can write it down the answer for yourself, or you can let me know in the chat. But if you have anxiety now in your life and you could clear the anxiety completely from your life, what would you do? Who would you be? So if you're known as the anxious friend or the anxious daughter or mum or whatever, or you say things like, I've always been like that. This is the way I've always been. How will you be moving forward without that anxiety holding you back? Like what's the goal? So same with the postural stuff. Now you have an understanding of what happy is to you. You know whenever you feel like shit, what you need to do to make yourself feel happy. So to live free of anxiety, you have to understand what that looks like to you. So the easiest example is if you had social anxiety, and this is something that actually happened with a client. They had social anxiety, generalized anxiety, and we cleared it after a few sessions, and they felt amazing about going out. They used to be terrified even the thought of going out, and they were like, this is brilliant, I'm going to go out, I feel amazing, I can talk about it, I can look at pictures now of people going out, it's going to be easy. And they went out that weekend and freaked out and came back, and they were like, it didn't work. And once we got a wee bit deeper into what we were doing, we realized that it did work. It was just they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to be a person who went out and interacted with people. They knew how to be a hider, an avoider, an anxious person. They didn't know how to be someone that actually could talk to people and interact with them. So we had to teach that next step. So now that you're not anxious or afraid of going out, now we need to teach you how to interact with people, talk to people. You have to learn a new thing. Like it's going to happen now with, it's probably already happening actually since all the lockdowns have relaxed a bit more. People are so used to, even me working, like I'm so used to working to a screen that when I get in front of people, I'm like, fuck, I can't just exit this if I don't want to be here. Actually deal with people. Can't mute anybody. So you have to relearn those behaviors. So how do you live free of anxiety? First of all, you have to understand your anxiety, which we have talked about. So you want to focus on your many improvements. So you understand your anxiety, which we already have done. You understand your posture, you understand your movement. So if you focus on your many improvements, so there's going to be times where you slip and you have anxiety for other reasons. The example I'll use is people that came to me when I first started for quit smoking. We might clear the reason that they smoke. Then they go home and something happens, something new happens, like their dog dies or something, just as a quick example. That would be devastating. So they would search for like a way of coping with that or dealing with it, and they would most likely go back to smoking again. That doesn't mean that the work didn't work in the first place, that they didn't clear whatever was holding them back in the first place. What happened was a new thing happened and they went back to the same behavior. So if you understand that there is a chance you'll slip back to the same avoidance behavior or overeating or whatever way it is that you react and you behave in these situations, then you can be less harsh on yourself and you can understand that, right, this is something that can happen. I've been doing so well. This is what I did to do well. I'm just going to go back to that. Let's move forward with some finger switching. That will help you get to where you want to get to, knowing that every time you make a mini improvement, you've got new information. Even after today, you've information that you didn't have yesterday, today, hopefully. So you'll know that you're better set to work on your physical, emotional needs moving forward. So whenever you understand that the mini wins are important, like mini wins is how you get massive wins in the future. Like I'm recovering from a back injury, so I've been going to the gym and I've been doing very light for about 7 weeks now. If you actually saw me, you'd be thinking, he's taking that really easy. If you didn't know my back was injured, you'd be just thinking, Why the fuck's he not working hard? He just tells us he does this for 20 years and he can barely do anything. So I understand that my body needs to slowly move and slowly improve rather than trying to smash it out of the park again and doing what I used to be able to do. So I know that those little slips will happen, but it doesn't really matter. So remember that the mini wins are important and that they build towards the massive wins will help you to stay on track as well. If you enjoyed this training and would like to work with me more and become part of a community of like minded ladies who are working towards their mental, emotional strength and aiming to live the life that they've dreamed of, losing weight along the way and enjoying it, while celebrating the mini wins with everybody within the community, then hit the button below to join the Superhuman Confidence and Weight Loss Accelerator group. Within this group, you'll have live training that will be from a specialist PT, from mobility, from mindset to yoga to Q&As to special guests. There's so much that goes on within this group that there is no way there won't be something for you. So join the group today and I look forward to working with you in the future.